Have you seen those videos where they compare the size of the Earth to other planets, stars, and even black holes? Makes you feel tiny, doesn't it? Makes you feel that there are unimaginable horrors lurking in the deepest corners of space, just waiting to be discovered. That's just what we're exploring today. The 80s and 90s were a golden age for cosmic horror, with a number of films that explored these themes. But many of these films have been overshadowed by more mainstream horror movies, just like The Avengers overshadowed any kind of superhero content for nearly a decade. Well, this rant is for another time. If you're looking for something to really scare you, then check out this list of 11 most underrated cosmic horror movies from the 80s and 90s. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin. The Thing, 1982. This movie is a classic in both sci-fi and horror genres. John Carpenter is the man behind it, and it's based on a story by John W. Campbell Jr. called Who Goes There? For our young audience who doesn't have a clue, John Carpenter is the director of Halloween, another must-watch movie. You're welcome. Coming back to The Thing, a team of scientists investigating in Antarctica come across a terrifying extraterrestrial that has the ability to completely mimic any living thing it comes into contact with. The entire research station is thrown into chaos by this shape-shifting terror, simply known as The Thing, as paranoia grows like wildfire. Nobody can be sure who is an alien imposter and who is still human, so forget trusting anybody. The crew, led by the fierce helicopter pilot MacReady, played by Kurt Russell, must identify the threat before it's too late. The research station feels claustrophobic, and being stuck in Antarctica with this monster on the loose is no party either. When it first came out, people were more into happy alien movies like E.T., but this movie deserves your attention.
Sutter Kane.
In the Mouth of Madness, 1994. Another John Carpenter movie? Alright, In the Mouth of Madness from 1994 is a certified mindbend. Consider it the unofficial sequel to his other movies The Thing and Prince of Darkness. John Trent, who works in insurance, gets locked up in a house telling a story about how he went nuts. Turns out, he was hired to find a horror author by the name of Sutter Kane, whose books are messing with people's minds and causing them to hallucinate. For a common man like Trent, it's a publicity stunt, and we can't blame him. But hold on, because he finds out there's a town straight out of Kane's books, and it seems like the characters and monsters are coming to life. The line between Trent's reality and Kane's stories get blurry, and Trent starts to question everything he knows. Sam Neill plays his part well, and the ending is wild and leaves you with more questions than answers, which is exactly what the director wanted.
It's in here! Don't come in here!
Prince of Darkness, 1987. John Carpenter again, ladies and gentlemen. Man, this guy is all over this list. As mentioned before, this movie is unofficially included in a trilogy with The Thing and In the Mouth of Madness. A bunch of grad students and science geeks get called to an abandoned church. What could go wrong? There they find some green goo that turns out to be the devil's kid. Yikes. And like normal science geeks, they study this goo and realize it might bring about the apocalypse. The church is scary enough on its own, but then you add the music and this weird sentient liquid, and it's enough to freak anyone out. One cool thing about this film is how it mixes science and religion. It makes you wonder if maybe science can explain some religious stuff and vice versa. The effects are a bit outdated for now, but they still manage to be entertaining, especially when people start transforming. Event Horizon, 1997. On to the next one, and we're sure you've heard about this one somewhere. Imagine a spaceship vanishing into a black hole only to reappear after a long, long time. A rescue crew is sent to investigate the Event Horizon, a ship that reappeared after a trip to a black hole. As they explore it, they find evidence of a massacre. It becomes clear that Event Horizon brought something back with it from the black hole, something evil. The ship itself is like a giant haunted house floating in space. One can only imagine the claustrophobia. Every corridor reeks of something awful, and the crew is on edge the entire time, wondering, what might be lurking in the shadows. They start getting picked off one by whatever nasty thing is lurking on board. Sam Neill stars in this movie, and he's fantastic as the designer of the ship who's haunted by his creation. The movie asks the question, is there a hell out there in the universe? And did this ship accidentally open the door to it? It's a pretty entertaining movie, considering it came out in 1997. It's speculated that the production of the movie was a bit rushed, and there was a lot of footage that got cut, but even with its flaws, it's a must-watch. From Beyond, 1986. Alright, another movie inspired by H.P. Lovecraft. The Resonator is a device created by two scientists that allows you to see things that are normally invisible. Sounds good, doesn't it? Hold on to it. We quickly learn that there is a monster-filled alternate dimension out there. Things get worse when monsters invade our planet and some scientists go insane. This is a kind of gross but awesome movie thanks to practical effects. Not everyone will enjoy this film, but if you enjoy your sci-fi weirdness mixed with a good dose of horror, From Beyond is definitely worth seeing. Just don't hold it against us if you start having nightmares about slimy extraterrestrial creatures. Church, 1989. Time for the next one. An old cathedral built on top of a mass grave. Not exactly the most cheerful place, right? Yeah, because this grave is full of devil worshippers, and apparently their evil is still bubbling under the surface. The story starts way back in medieval Germany, with a few knights who massacre some devil worshippers. To trap all that evil underground, they build a giant church right on top. Fast forward to the present day, and a new librarian named Evan shows up at the church. He meets an artist, Lisa, who's working on restoring some paintings, and together they stumble on a hidden message. And of course, they accidentally unleash this ancient evil trapped into the church. The people in the church start seeing horrific visions and one by one get possessed by demons. There's a bishop and a priest who try to fight evil, and it's a tough battle. Overall, it's a dark and disturbing movie that will make you think twice about ever going into an old church again. Resurrected, 1991. If we had $1 for every time a movie was inspired by the works of H.P. Lovecraft, we'd be rich. Charles Dexter Ward, a scientist, has been acting really weird lately. His wife hires a private investigator, John March, to figure out what's up with him. Upon investigation, John finds out that Charles is obsessed with his ancestor, Joseph Curwen. And the way horror movies go, obviously Joseph wasn't a regular man. He played with dark magic and maybe even brought people back from the dead. As John investigates, Charles gets possessed and a series of mysterious murders follow, and the whole situation goes from strange to downright terrifying. With John Terry as the private eye and Chris Sarandon as the ancestor, there aren't any complaints in the acting. Lifeforce, 1985. On to the next one. A crew of astronauts are on a mission to Halley's Comet. Pretty standard stuff. But these guys stumble upon a giant alien spaceship stationed inside the comet, and things take a sharp turn for the worse when they bring back some vampire-looking aliens to Earth. Mind you, these aren't your typical neck-biting vampires. They suck the life force right out of you, leaving you a shambling, mindless husk of your former self. And there's this one particularly bad alien who's on a feeding frenzy in London, draining everyone she touches. Meanwhile, the astronaut who brought these cosmic bloodsuckers back to Earth is haunted by the experience and is the only one who can seemingly stop this whole mess. Spaceships crash, vampires run around, and London descends into total chaos. The retro 80s aesthetic takes you back to a simpler time, at least in terms of movie special effects. Just don't expect anything too deep or serious. This is pure, unadulterated sci-fi horror madness, and that's exactly what makes it so enjoyable. Phantoms, 1998. Check this one out. Based on a book by Dean Koontz, this movie hit the screens in 1998. A picture-perfect mountain town where everything suddenly goes eerily quiet. No cars honking, no kids playing, nothing. Just deserted houses and silence. That's the welcome two sisters get when they arrive for a visit in Phantoms. They soon discover the townsfolk haven't gone on vacation, they have vanished without a trace, leaving only signs of a violent struggle. The sisters team up with a local sheriff, played by a young Ben Affleck, and soon realize something evil is lurking in the shadows. Of course, they teamed up with future Batman. This nasty creature picks people off in gruesome ways, and that's just the beginning. But wait, This entity can also shapeshift, so not only can it kill you, but it can also morph into your neighbor, your best friend, or basically anyone you trust. Suddenly, everyone is a suspect, and paranoia spreads throughout the remaining townsfolk like wildfire. The entire movie is thick with dread and suspicion. You're never sure who is real anymore. They cross paths with a mysterious character played by Peter O'Toole, and might be their only hope. He has some wild theories about an ancient enemy that could be behind everything. Is he some kooky conspiracy theorist, or is he the only one who truly understands the nightmare they're facing? You'll find out when you watch the movie. Dark Waters, 1993. This one is a personal favorite. Elizabeth is haunted by terrifying visions from her childhood. Looking for some answers, she travels to a remote island where her dad poured money into an old monastery. Let's just say it wasn't the best vacation destination, but hey, you do you. As Elizabeth digs into her past and walks through the shadowy corners of the monastery, her life spirals into a nightmare. The nuns who live there seem about as inviting as a haunted house on Halloween night, and the whole island has an oppressive, gloomy vibe that seeps into your bones. The director is a master at blurring the lines between reality and Elizabeth's messed up dreams, so you're constantly questioning what's real and what's just freaking her out. But is that it? Nope. There's also a lot more going on here than meets the eye. Unlike slashers that rely on cheap jump scares, Dark Waters is a slow burn, but that slow burn is what ratchets up the tension with every scene. The nuns walk around with these blank stares and hidden motives, and you can't help but feel like they're up to no good. Dark Waters isn't interested in cheap thrills and gallons of blood, it's all about atmosphere and mood. The Dark Side of the Moon, 1990. This is the home stretch. Last but not least, let's say you're cruising along in your spaceship, orbiting Earth. Suddenly, all the lights flicker and die, alarms start blaring, and you realize you've got a major malfunction on your hands. Now, that is a big deal. This ain't a roadside flat tire situation. You're heading towards the dark side of the moon with a dead ship and a whole lot of questions. For those who don't know, the real dark side of the moon was still a mystery in 1990, and no space organization had explored it yet. Now we know where they got their inspiration from. Things go from bad to bizarre when the stranded crew spots an abandoned NASA shuttle floating in space. This particular shuttle had been missing for 30 years, and it wasn't last seen vanishing without a trace in the Bermuda Triangle. Desperate for spare parts, the crew makes the obviously bad decision to board the wretched ship. Let's just say it wasn't the smartest move they ever made. As they look over the dark corners of the abandoned ship, they discover that something evil has been lurking on board for decades. This isn't some malfunctioning computer or hostile alien race they're up against. We're talking full-on demonic possession here. This entity preys on the crew's fears and vulnerabilities, picking them off one by one in a horrifying game of cat and mouse. The isolation and claustrophobia of space are fired up as the characters are trapped in a metal coffin with a deadly stalker and nowhere to run. You can practically feel the panic and desperation of the characters when they fight for survival against an unseen enemy. With this, our list comes to an end. Marvelous verdict. While some cosmic horror movies from this era, such as Stuart Gordon's Reanimator, have become cult classics, many others have been unfairly overlooked. These underrated gems deserve to be rediscovered by horror fans who are looking for something to watch other than their daily soap. Come on, people, show some love. Got any more such movies that we have missed? Tell us in the comments. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.